Welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and we're going to continue on with Module 3 for ANI 235, Character Modeling and Rigging. So in this particular lesson or tutorial is how do we get, once we get our character all rigged and the skin is bound and the weights are all painted and we have it posed and we've got our base our base finished, then we have to create a couple things. I think in our description, turn in instructions, this is what I'm asking for. So you're going to turn in your MB file with your character textures and your character posed on a pedestal. You'll turn that MB file in. That'll be the complete file. Okay. And then you got to turn in a 400 frame turntable animation that rotates 360 degrees, full frame play blast, with textures on, and compressed with Xvid. Okay, so those are the things we need to do. Now Xvid can be downloaded for free onto your Windows computer. I think it'll work with Mac too. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a Mac, so I don't know. But anyway, you can download Xvid. It's free. If you don't know where it is and you need to try to get it and you can't find it, then email me right away. I check my emails, quite a bit during the day, probably once every hour or so. So please email me. I'll get back to you as soon as possible with that information. But you should be able to find it pretty easily, and it's easy to download. You're going to also render a front perspective character and a back perspective character. HD 1080 JPEG format. So these, I'm going to go through the deliverables. Okay. So let's get back to our scene. All right. So here's our scene, and the idea is in this particular instruction is just kind of take you through what I've got so far. So there's my base that I have, and this is my character all set up and posed. And the paint weights look really good. I got everything tweaked out. Okay, which it took a long time. It did. It took about a day or so to get all that done. So if you're going to do this, you need to start right away painting weights and getting it posed and get your base ready to go. Alright, so you save out your MB file. So you go to File, Save As. This is what the scene file that I want. Alright, but before you save that out, once you have your character posed, we got to do the lighting. The lighting's really important, okay? So what did I do for lighting? Well, the first thing I put in was I went to to Arnold, and I clicked on this guy right here, create a sky dome light. That's the first thing that you're going to do in your scene, okay? So you create that sky dome. As you can see, I already have mine in there. I've got my outliner open. If you want to get your outliner open, you can go to Windows, Outliner, and that'll open it up. But this is my sky dome, and it has an HDR image on it. Okay, high dynamic range image, and this is going to really help give it a more realistic look. Even though it's a stylistic character, it'll give it a more realistic and look as far as environment and lighting goes. So where did I find an HDR image, and how do I get it onto that sphere? Alright, so what we're going to do with this one is that you can either set up a camera or just use a perspective. Okay, and get your scenes set up that way. We can render out through the perspective. That's not a problem. Just got to remember which one you're doing. And once you set up your camera, which can be perspective or create a camera, whatever you want to do, that's fine with me. The end result is what matters to me right now. So HDR image, where do you find it? Okay, so basically I went online and I just typed in HDRI Haven, okay, HDRIHaven.com, okay, and he's got some amazing HDRI images. So here's the front page. You can see some of the really cool results. Okay, I'm going to click on HDR Eyes. Okay, and what we're looking for is an indoor scene. Okay, studio or indoor, those two are fine. Stay away from the outside ones. So if you click on indoor, okay, then what you're looking for is, you can see these little metal balls, like these glass, this chrome ball is what I'm looking at. What you want to do is you want to find something that is not overly warm, okay, something that is neutral. Okay, try to keep away from HDR images that are warm or yellow. Okay, the idea is to get something that is neutral. Okay, so when you find one that's neutral, and if you have reflective objects, you have to have this. So metals, like if you have a sword, the sword will not look like a sword unless it has something to reflect. Otherwise it's going to reflect black or reflect white, and that's not what you want. So stay away from stuff like this. This is there's way too many colors, very, 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 it looks it's almost like it's burned out. Okay, too much dynamic range in that one. So let's keep it neutral. Something like this would work. Something like this would work. Even this would work better than the other one. This has a little warmth, but not overwhelming. This one works too, but you just need to find something that you're happy with, that you want to work with. Okay? So find your image. Just say it's this one. Okay? And then it kind of shows you what it looks like, and then you can go in here and click the one that you would like to download. I'd recommend 4K is fine, because we're not going to have the actual image on. Okay, you don't need 16K. That'll wipe you out. I mean, that'll wipe your memory out. 24 will be bad enough. Okay, you could even get away with with a 2K. If you find that you're having problems rendering it and it's really slow, go down to 2K, and that'll help out a lot. I wouldn't go to 1K, but one of these three will work. Okay, so you click on that, download it, save it, and then when that's done, you can go back into your scene file, and what you'll do is you'll click on your actual lighting rig. I just call it the sky dome. So click on the sky dome. That's what that looks like in the outliner, and do Control A, and then you can see that comes up here. And what we're looking for is the shape 1 node. So whatever it's named, and then it says sky dome light shape 1. Okay, so what you'll do is you go to the top, next to color, you'll click on the that little, it looked like a checkerboard box. I've already got mine in there, so I click on it. And in here, you want to go in and click on this and go ahead and find your 4K texture. Now I would place the 4K HDR image into your source images folder, and always go to File and set your project properly. Okay? If you're not setting your project properly, what's going to happen is that every time you save out your scene file and you open it back up again, and you don't put your textures in the source images folder, it will not find your textures. Okay? So make sure your textures are in there, and you're good to go. So the next thing you do, once you see that open up, it may take a while. Give it time. You also want to hit the 6 key too as well to be able to see it. Then under resolution, it's defaulted at 1000, and you need to set that up to the amount resolution of your HDR images, which is 4K. The one I imported was 4K, so make sure you get that. That's 4000. Do not check mark this. This needs to be unchecked if you have it checked. And we want that to be on, illuminates by default. Format, lat long, and then samples. Okay, samples here needs to be set at 2. We need cast shadows on. Okay, and everything else looks really, really good. Okay, now I don't want to see the background. So if I want to see the background, and if I render it, it will be set up like this. But I don't want to see the background. I want it to be either really dark gray or black. Okay, now I've got a pedestal that's black. That will not work. So I've got to do something really low. But the thing is, I'm just going to go ahead. We're going to do a PNG anyway. I can put a background, any background that I want, and that's what I did with my portfolio pieces. Is I go ahead and turn the camera all the way off so we don't see any of the HDR image. We don't want to see that. It's very cluttered and it just doesn't look good. So please don't render out images with the background image in there, because I've showed you how to turn it off. So go ahead and turn that off. And the lighting. Okay, so what I did was I ended up opening and creating lighting. So I'm gonna turn this background off for now. Okay, so I'm going to go Control A. I'm going to put it in its own layer and then turn it off. Okay, so now we can see this a little bit better. Okay, so here's my key light. Okay, what I did was I went to Create, I went to Lights, and I went to Create Directional Light. That's how I created that. I may have had to scale it up a little bit to see it because my model is at 1 foot. I've got not centimeters but feet, and I've already scaled my character up a long time ago, and before I bound it, the skin. And so this is my key light. This is my fill light. Okay, the lighting is coming from here. Okay, this way. That's direction, and I'm only having one shadow. Okay, so with that light selected, so when you create, I created 2 directional light. This one and this one. This is my key light. This is my fill light. That's filling in all the dark areas. And this is my backlight. And this is a basically a point light. So I got 3 lights in there. I got my sky dome, my key light, my fill light, and my backlight. My backlight is create polygon perimeter, or excuse me, create lights, and it's a point light. Okay. All right. So I'll show you how I got those set up. Here. Alright, so let's go ahead. This is the cast shadows. This is the key light. So that key light is actually giving me the shadows that I need to add depth to the character. So with this one I've got the intensity set at 1.3. Okay, under Arnold here I've got use color temperature. And I've got it's set to 5800, exposure to 1.3, and samples at 1. And the key light is intensity at 1. Use color temperature is on. Temperature is 5800. Exposure's at 1. And samples at 1, and we do not have cast shadows on, so make sure you turn that off. Okay. And the point light, I have that set up in intensity at 6. Look under Arnold, see what we got here. Color temperature's on, same color temperature, 5800, exposure at 6, samples at 2, and cast shadows is on that. Okay, that's just a good start. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and go to, I'm going to break these up into 2 videos. Alright, so we'll see you in part 2.